Thank you. Good morning. I'm Nancy Mahowald, and I had the privilege of attending the annual conference in St. Cloud this last week as a delegate from this church, along with Pastor Jeff, Gail Shelby, and our newest member, Lori Anderson. Wow, what an annual conference it was. I truly wish that each one of you could experience it sometime. Yes, we vote on legislation. Yes, we look at numbers and budgets. But is it boring? No. Let me just tell you about some of the numbers we talked about. The Minnesota Conference has 350 churches. We had 867 new members this past year, 1,200 professions of faith, 1,700 campers from 153 churches. 25 churches are going through the revitalization program. 55 churches in Minnesota have formed a partnership with a local school, including Coon Rapids. 22 began the past year. We have 7 ELI project recipients. ELI stands for Exploring Leadership Internship. And that's what Lee Miller and John Barclay went through a couple years ago. Do you remember that? ELI recipients are college students who are exploring a call into ministry. They are paired with a clergy mentor and spend 8 weeks as an intern gaining hands-on experience at a host church. And this year we have 7. It was amazing. There are currently 10 church planting projects under development in Minnesota. So those are some of the numbers that we dealt with, exciting numbers. God is on the move. But wait, there's more. On Monday, before the official start of the conference, Gail and I attended a 7-hour workshop on reforming our neighborhoods, being Pentecost people. Remember Pentecost? Just a few weeks ago? Pentecost was when the Holy Spirit came like tongues of fire and landed on the disciples. And that's the same Holy Spirit that lives in us today. We learned that we need to share the Spirit and the love of God to our neighbors in whatever form we can to eradicate racism and bring people to Christ. There's so much more I wish I could share with you, but I just don't have the time unless we kick him out of here. The theme of the conference this year was Encounter the Spirit, Live Expectantly. Bishop O sees the Minnesota gathering as more for learning than for legislation, more for gathering for strength and wisdom to teach and align, and for sending forth new pastors. We had a conference speaker, the Reverend Junius Dotson, General Secretary of Discipleship Ministries. He was a dynamic speaker, and I will be sharing some of his teachings with the executive board members. I had an evening in the park again this year. It was perfect weather, 75 degrees, sunny, beautiful. We were entertained by a choir from Brooklyn UMC in Brooklyn Center, and the Reverend Dotson continued his teachings. There were various food trucks, bouncy houses and water features for the kids, free water and free kettle corn, and we assembled an additional 1,000 birthing kits. God is on the move. On Wednesday, we heard the bishop's address, enjoyed worship with great music, and remembered our baptism. We attended various workshops and a ministry fair. In the evening, we had the celebration of life in ministry. That's my favorite part, and I think most people's favorite part of the conference. I talked about the bishop sending forth new pastors. Well, send forth we did. On Wednesday night, 6 were ordained for the work of an elder. 1 was ordained for the work of a deacon. 1 was recognized as an associate member. 2 were commissioned as provisional members from another denomination. 5 commissioned as provisional members elder, including Cullen Tanner. By the way, he'll be ordained in 2 years, so keep that on your calendar. 3 were commissioned as provisional member deacon. There were also recognition of 12 licensed local pastors, so that's 30 additional people that were sent out to the churches. They were all blessed and sent forth into the mission field. God is on the move. Pastor Grant and Donnell Tanner were there, along with Jenny, Damon, and Lori. Pastor Bill and Jana, Pastor Lauren and Jeff, and Pastor Mark were all present, and they all send their love and greetings to you. Then the bishop asked if anyone felt a stirring in their heart. He asked, "Is God calling you? Now may be the time. Come forward, and there are people to pray with you and talk with you." The first one forward was an 8-year-old girl. And then I couldn't believe my eyes because more and more people came forward, and they kept coming. I estimate somewhere around 40, and that's double from last year. Friends, I believe something is happening in the United Methodist denomination. The Spirit has been set free, and God is on the move. On Thursday, we enjoyed worship with communion. We were informed about the Commission on a Way Forward, created in 2016 by the General Conference to resolve controversy of the United Methodist Church treatment of the LGBTQ community. The members of the commission are focusing on seeking unity for the church. This is a 32-member group from around the globe. They are building friendships and trust through Bible study and prayer. Their report is due to the Council of Bishops in November of 2018. Please keep this commission in your prayers. We had 4 presenters of Acts 2 TED Talks, they were called, that painted a bold, provocative vision for the church. I wish I had the time to share all of their stories, but I'm going to highlight one of them. 3 of the speakers were pastors, but this gentleman, Steve Fredland, is a member of Common Ground, a United Methodist community in Cambridge. Speaking about himself and his wife, Steve said, "We had been leaders in the conservative evangelical movement for many, many years, and now we're doing one of the most radical things we could do, becoming members of a Methodist church. People like me are looking for a place with a grounded perspective of God and faith, but where questions are not only allowed, but welcomed and celebrated, where the primary goal is not to convince everyone to think the same way, but instead to hear and share different perspectives from each person's own journey, where everyone is invited to participate in this redemptive movement. God is on the move." Yes, the theme this year was Encounter the Spirit, Live Expectantly. We need to encounter the Spirit here in our church. We need to live expectantly. Expect to look at ourselves with new eyes to see where we may need to change, where we may need to step out of our comfort zone. We need to expect that we will discover new ways to get outside of our church doors and into our neighborhood. We need to engage our community and experiment with new ways of being church. We need to expect the Holy Spirit to bring us the exact right new pastor at the exact right time. God is on the move. Thank you.